my mama land, my mama land, oh, hell, my mama land. Oh, hell, me, hell, my mama land, my mama land, oh, hell, my mama land. God bless Liberia, bless my mama land. God bless my mama land. God bless my mama land. Everything the enemy has stolen, all Liberia, God said He will restore. Your pride, your dignity, even your resources, God said He will restore. You shall once again become the light. You shall once again become the light of Africa. You shall once again become the light. You shall once again become the light of Africa. You shall eat the fruit of your land, the fruit of your land, the fruit of your land. Hey, you shall eat the fruit of your land, the fruit of your land, the fruit of your land. Hey, and never will you be strangers in your own land, strangers in your own land, strangers in your. Oh hell, Liberia, hell, my mama land. God bless Liberia, bless my mama land, mama land. God bless my mama land. Oh hell, Liberia, hell, my mama land, hell, my mama land, oh hell, my mama land. All rise, Liberia, all rise, all rise. Your time is now. All rise, Liberia, all rise, all rise. Your time is now. I will you, Liberia, I will you. Oh, I will you, Liberia, Molu, I will you. I will you, Liberia, I will you. Oh, Liberia, Molu, I will you. We on the right. Oh, hell, Liberia, hell, my mama.
Yeah, we want to say welcome to the exchange. Wheresoever you are, we want to say good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to the exchange. There's 1 hour, 30 minutes show where we bring people from diverse backgrounds to share their knowledge and their thought on this great platform. So wheresoever you're watching us from, we want to say welcome and welcome once again. Prince.
All right, so welcome from whatever part of the world you are viewing us from. We want to say good morning, good evening, and good afternoon to you. This is the Exchange Forum, and this forum basically we educate, we inspire, and we discuss key issues affecting young people in all walks of life. And for our weekend edition of today's show, the Exchange Forum, we have our own friend and brother, Osquadot, who's currently based in India, in person of Mr. Hesifa Tapejian. So for today's edition of the weekend, the Exchange Forum, we are going to discuss key issues in regards to youth. And the topic on the discussions, we are going to host Hesifa Tape, and we are going to discuss few key issues in line with the topic. So before diving straight into our discussion for today, or before creating the enabling environment or the platform for our brother Hesifa to come and elaborate on key issues that he has penned down based on his own research, I would like for us all as panelists to introduce we're going to start with our sister Harriet. Harriet, can you please introduce yourself? Harriet, we aren't getting you. Harriet, you hello, guys. Are you guys getting Harriet?
No,
All right. So while we are with Harriet to come back, I think she has little technical problem. Moses, can you please introduce yourself while we are with Harriet to come back on the show?
yeah, let me just take this time to say good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on your time zone, wherever you are. My name is Moses T. Telawayan, and I'm a student who currently studies in India for a bachelor's in computer applications from the Chaitanya University. And it's a pleasure to be one of the panelists on the exchange and to listen to the exchange promises to be fascinating, exciting, inspiring, and educative. So be looking forward to something very, very much important from our guest tonight, and it's gonna be something you worth your time. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you to Moses Telewayum. That was the voice of our own friend and brother who's currently serving as one of the panelists. So I'm going to take Elijah Dennis. Can you kind of introduce yourself?
Okay, thank you very much, Prince Duode, for giving me the opportunity to introduce myself on this great platform that brings together young people from diverse backgrounds. As the name remain, Elijah Dennis is my name. One of the panelists for this show. Thank you.
Okay, so now we're gonna take Nuo. Nuo, are you there? Can you shortly introduce yourself?
Thank you. Thank you, Prince. Firstly, my apologies to everyone for not being on video tonight. My name is Noah David, one of the panelists for this great discussion. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Nuo. So we take Siaden. Siaden, are you there? Can you kind of introduce yourself shortly?
Yes, I'm here. I'm kind of off and on because my internet is giving me a hard time. Okay. Good afternoon to my fellow viewers out there. Students Sianen Bana, a Liberian, currently studying in India at the Kate University. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Siaden, for that brief and splendid introduction. So for today's discussion, okay, Harriet, you just came. So by the virtue of that, it is our norm for all of our panelists to introduce themselves. So can you please introduce yourself shortly? Hello, guys. Elijah, Moses, Hesifa, Siaden, and Noah. Are you guys getting Harriet?
No,
Harriet is muted and she's trying to talk. So let us move on to the introduction. Is Harriet's mic better? Then we can come back to her for her short introduction. So let us try to move
Okay.
on because time is fast spent.
Okay, no problem. So Harriet, can you try to adjust your gadget, the gadget you're using? Please try to adjust it, and after that, when you come, then we're gonna give you the time. We're gonna give you the platform to better introduce yourself. So thank you very much. So today, Max, our weekend regular exchange forum. So today we're going to be discussing the topic, the role of youth in the advancement and rebuilding of post-war country, a case study particularly on Liberia. So we actually going to discuss a wide range of issues regarding young people challenges, resolutions, policies, recommendations on how young people can contribute positively, especially or case study to Liberia. Liberia, by the virtue of how we all know and we are knowledge of the history that we fight of 14 years of civil conflict, and due to that, there are too many impeding situations affecting young people. So, what are those basic strategies? What are those basic recommendations or key issues that people or young folks can work on in order for them to, be a societal contributor? So we're going to look at youth empowerment and education. We're going to look at youth participation in national leadership and decision making. We got to look at we're going to look at youth involvement in policy making, global resolution.
So that was the voice of Prince Duo trying to introduce the discussion tonight. I think most of our panelists are facing some internet problems tonight, but we hope to work on everything as soon as possible so that everything can be better. Our guest is well seated right there. Hezekiah Tappet. We will be introducing shortly so that we can start the discussion. So, notwithstanding, we will move over to Noah Davis for uh, a brief introduction. Okay, Hezekiah is back. Let's see. Let's Hezekiah back. Let's add Prince back. So, now we'll move to Noah Davis to introduce our guest speaker. Noah, the podium. Noah Davis, are you there? Noah. Noah, you are muted.
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah, please introduce our guest speaker.
Okay, thank you for the guest for tonight. Little about him. Our guest for tonight is Mr. Hezekiah Tapper Jr., who hails from River County in Liberia and a current resident of Ludhiana, Punjab State, India. He is a man who has been married since 2018. Mr. Tapper is an advocate, a humanitarian, and a politician. He is a former COS at the 54th National Legislature, the founder and executive director of Windows Might.
No.
Elijah.
You are much better. No, you can continue.
back, Lord. Okay.
We are waiting
Our
on you.
guest for tonight is Mr. Hezekiah Tapp, who hailed from River G County in Liberia. He is a current resident of Ludhiana, Punjab State in India. He is married since 2018. Mr. Tappe is an advocate, a humanitarian, and a politician. He is a former COS at the 54th National Legislature of Liberia. Mr. Tappet is the founder and ED of Winners Might Charity Foundation. He is also a former administrator at the Alpha Logging Company. Mr. Tappe is right, Mr. Hezekiah Tappet.
Thank you, Noah, for that brief introductions of our guest speaker. So we will quickly turn over to Moses to take over the pendulums to uh, introduce, let's say, bring the guest forth by asking questions. Moses, take over.
So let me say thank you again to Elijah for the recognition. And tonight's edition of the exchange promises to be fascinating, educative, and somehow inspiring. And we'll be talking about the role of young people in the advancement and rebuilding of post-war countries, basically using Liberia as a case study. As we all know, we face a very huge civil crisis and 14 years of civil crisis that has had serious impediments on our growth as a nation. And what can young people basically do since we've been affected as a country? What can we young people do to help rebuild and basically advance our country? So to discuss that, we're invited to learn with us our friend and brother Hazifi Tapet Jr. He's going to be discussing, dissecting those critical issues and major points that will be needed to heard across many platforms. Like our one of our colleagues just talked, he told you that the stream is live on 3 platforms. That is YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. So you can view us from every part of the world on either of those platforms. So to discuss that tonight, we want to say welcome to you, Mr. Hasifa Tapet Jr., to the exchange. And it's a pleasure having you here. Welcome to the podium.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay. So let's just first start up the discourse by saying, the topic talks about the role of youths in the advancement and rebuilding of post-war country, basically looking at Liberia as a case study. So someone will be asking, can we dissect those basic things as it relates to advancement and rebuilding and post-war? Basically, what are those meaning when it comes to the topic? Can you just dissect that before we move further?
Thank you very much. First, I think I just want to just get the ball rolling and jump straight into the discussion. Firstly, there are a few things I want us put into perspective. The topic tonight is the role of young people or the role of youth in the advancement of post-war country, using Liberia as a case study. And when we talk about advancement, we talk about improvement, that is uplifting the standard of livelihood of every situation, looking at Liberia. So if we look at the role of youth in rebuilding or the advancement of Liberia, we're talking about how can young people be integral part or contribute in making our country better? How can young people be integral part in uplifting the state of affairs of our country?
Okay. Yeah, so we will just want to give you the time to basically tell the audience and as it relates to what you'll be covering tonight, and just basically about what you want to talk about as it relates to the advancement and rebuilding of a post-war country, the role that youth has to play, especially for Liberia. So you can just go ahead
All
and
right.
then, yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. Firstly, there's something I want us to understand. Let's look at the definition of a youth. Firstly, who is a youth and who are those in the category of young people? Now, a youth is understood to be a person between childhood and adult stage. That is someone between the ages, if you look at it globally in our Liberia setting, a youth is between the ages 18 to 35. Now, there are categories. If you look at youth and young people, there are two different categories. So that is, a youth is someone between childhood and adult stage. If you look at adult stage globally, the International Global Ratio and Projection projects adult stage to be between 36 to 45. But mind you, in our Liberia setting and globally, there are youth and there are young people. So if you fall between the ages 36 to 40, you are considered as a young person. So looking at Liberia, where we are, and the entire dependency ratio, most of the time when we talk about youth, we categorize it in the entire young people stage. So we will be looking at also for tonight, when we're talking about youth and young people, we will be focusing basically between the ages 18 to 40. So because these are ranges of people considered young adult and youth. So we all formulate them into the young people category. So these are people we're going to be looking at their role in the advancement and rebuilding a post-war country with Liberia as a case study. Taking into consideration that Liberia is our heritage, Liberia is the country we owe everything to. Liberia is one of the country, is the only country that we cannot be deported from. So everything we do in life, we owe it to Liberia. So we ought to give our all. If you look at the young generation of people, specifically with the world youth population, if you look at the world youth population, you have about 40% of the people in the world are below the age of 15. And then if you also look at that population statistics ratio, you will get to understand that even with this, there are also more than 63% of the people that are between the ages 18 to 40. So these are people we want to focus specific emphasis on. Now, looking at Liberia, according to the United Nations Population Index report from looking at the previous census and all of our elections conducted, statistics prove that 65% of a Liberian population are young people. That means these are people between the ages 18 to 40 years. So now the biggest question is, what is the role of these people in advancing and rebuilding Liberia? Now, before we go to that role, let me register that all of the entire population of young people, 54% of them are illiterate people. That means 54% of the total population of young people are people who can read and write, are people who can understand. So the remaining portion of them are illiterate people with a specific reference on the youthful population. So if you will notice our country statistics prior to 2017, we have we had something about 80% of the population were unemployed people. And when we're talking about unemployment, we're talking about people who were not gainfully employed. We're not looking at self-employment. We're not looking at businesses. We're looking at people who were gainfully employed, people who were on salary, having ends product during the monthly period. So you have about more than 80% of them were unemployed. Currently, we have the ratio have dropped, and we have about 78% of these people of the people in Liberia, especially young people that are unemployed. So, if we want to talk and look at the role of young people, if the major role of young people in rebuilding and advancement of every country especially post-war country, taking Liberia as a case study, the unique thing will be to make immense impact. As young people, we should understand that in order for our country to get better, in order for us to rebuild the fabrics of our country that was broken for numerous of civil war, we should be ready to make immense impact or immense contribution. And this immense impact and contribution come in three folds. Number one, young people, we got to be prepared. Young people got to be willing to participate. And when given the opportunity to serve, young people should be able to deliver. So these are three major bullet points we're going to look at today. Now, one will ask, what is the issue of preparation? If you look at Liberia, after the 14 years of civil crisis, Liberia went to election. Our first post-war election was in 2005, but we have our democratically elected leadership after the elections. And you notice that many of the young people at the time were not adequately prepared. That is the reason why, if you look at the electoral ratio, you don't have a vast majority of the young people from 2014 from 2005 that were included into national leadership through the election. That boiled down to the issue of preparation. So if young people are to make impact, if young people are to contribute in rebuilding the fabrics of our country, we should understand that young people firstly must take into consideration preparation. There is always a saying that preparation plus opportunity breeds success. So in order to get prepared, there are several factors involved. Young people must acquire education, formal and informal education. Young people must acquire the necessary skill. So these are the preparatory stage, because if young people are not prepared, we cannot participate into any leadership or governance process of our country. So in order for us to make immense impact, which is the major role of young people, to make immense impact and contribution to the rebuilding of every fabric of our country, we should firstly take into consideration our preparedness. Now, the next issue has to do with our participation. Young people at every walk of life, especially taking Liberia as a case study, we should be willing and ready to participate in every process that centers around the leadership, the progress, the governance of our country. The leadership and governance of our country and making impact may not necessarily be about political leadership. If you look at young people nowadays, let me just bring you to the current reality. You will notice that young people are getting involved with social entrepreneurship, development, and capacity building. These are all levels of participation. So the participation do not or cannot only be narrow or centered around the issue of political leadership. There are so many involvement and participation young people can get involved with. Another thing got to do with our deliverance. When we young people are given the opportunity to serve in national leadership, whether through political leadership or non-political leadership, we should understand that it's required and incumbent upon us to deliver to the best of our ability. So as young people, in order for us to contribute the role of young people in the progress, in the rebuilding, advancement of every society or post-war country looking at Liberia, we should make immense impact through our level of preparation, through our level of participation, through our level of delivery. Now, let me just give you this scenario. If you look at the war in Liberia, because we're using Liberia as a case study, if you look at the war in Liberia, a vast majority of the people that were directly involved in fighting the war, those perpetrators of the war, a vast majority of them are young people. So that implies that in damaging and spoiling the fabrics of our country, the young people play a very major role. And then let's bring it to electoral process that serves as a transition to democratic and better leadership of our country, using Liberia as a case study. If you look at our country today, the electionary period for 2005, 2011, 2017, even the 2014 senatorial and other by-elections in our country, a vast majority of the people that go to the polls to cast their vote are young people. So it just proves to us that young people, we have the ability to do two things to our country. We have the ability to damage our country, evident of the fact that majority of the people that fought the war are young people, and we also have the ability to improve our country, evident of the electoral statistics result, which projects that majority of the people that participated or that are participating in elections are young people. So that proves to us that we young people, we play a very pivotal and cardinal role in rebuilding and advancing every fabric in every sector of our country. If you read the United Nations 2030 Vision Index projection on Liberia, you will realize that there is a projection that about 600 million jobs can be created within the next 15 years for youth development. Now, this youth development is not just tied around what government will do to build the capacity of young people. This also boils down to our self-capacity building interest, because even if government will set up skills training program, government will institute policy to build up the capacity of young people, it firstly boils down to our self-capacity building interest. And it's we as young people, we should have the interest, to build the interest, have that zest and quest to build up our individual capacity for young development. Because in order for us to realize, mind you, that's just a projection from the UN Vision 2030 Index of Liberia. So in order for us to realize the fact that in the next 15 years, we can provide 6 million jobs, not only in Liberia, but globally, that means that we as young people, especially in Liberia and around the world, we should be prepared. Our preparedness comes with the level of education we will require. Our preparedness comes with how well we will link and connect, build up the various network, how well we will interact with our colleagues, build a change of communication and progress for productivity. So it all boils down to our personal capacity building. If we as young people are not willing and not in the capacity to build up ourselves, whatever policy that the government will institute, whatever plans that the government, whatever agenda that will be drafted by the government, it will not yield a realization purpose, because the primary reason is that because we are not prepared. So I was talking to a group of young people the other time back in Liberia. I told them, hey, what is incumbent upon us now is to see how young people we can push ourselves to national building, how young people can push ourselves to get involved in making the necessary amendments and changes, owing to the fact that we've left a period of 14 years civil war in Liberia. We're all looking at the issue of generational change. If you look in Liberia now, the biggest debate, whether political, non-political, social enterprise, community leadership, non-governmental organization, the biggest debate all center around generational change. So that projects that in order for Liberia to experience the unique rebuilding process that we envision, in order for Liberia to be advanced to the level that we envision, that boils down to the fact that we as young people should place ourselves in a capacity that the generational change that we require for the generational change is now. And mind you, that generational change does not only come with our political involvement. That generational change comes with our private sector involvement. That generational change comes with the fact that how are we willing, after the necessary education acquired, how are we willing to contribute to the rebuilding of our process of our country? Currently, there are many of us who have left the country. In India, there are some of our colleagues in Cyprus, some of our colleagues in the United Arab Emirates, Rwanda, and other places. We are seeking quality education. The essence of which we are seeking this education is to go back to Liberia and contribute to the rebuilding process of our country. So the idea is that we should go back, get involved with social entrepreneurship. Let us get involved with business. Let us get involved with creating a euphoria. Take, for instance, this platform we are on today. This is another means of advancing and rebuilding the fabric and the sector of our country, because this platform provides an opportunity for us to exchange view. This platform provides an opportunity for experts to kind of provide their expert opinion, where people can make decisions for the future. So these are some of the ways in which we can contribute to the rebuilding and advancement of post-war country, especially looking at Liberia as a case study. Take, for instance, If you look at our Africa, recently we just celebrated African Liberation Day, May 25th. And there are few names that are recorded into African history for the liberation of their various countries and bringing pride to Africa, for which we decided, and there was an agreement. Especially that agreement was made in Liberia during the leadership of President William Draganara Shatwa, third one that led to the formation of the Organization of Africa of African Union that we now call African Union today. That formation led to the establishment of African Liberation Day that we all celebrate today. And if you look at that entire process, there are scores of individuals in Africa that are graded for their contribution to the liberation struggle in Africa. Take for instance, in Ghana, you have Kwame Nkrumah. Kwame Nkrumah is recorded by then it was called the Goku. Kwame Nkrumah is recorded for his liberation role in the liberation struggle in Ghana, bringing Ghana to its independence, bringing Ghana to where it is today. So also if you look at Burkina Faso, like the issue of Thomas Sankara. Thomas Sankara is also a liberation icon in Faso. The legs of Thomas Sankara in Burkina Faso, the legs of Patrice Emery Lumumba in Congo, but then when Congo was under the colonial rule of Belgium, where they were then referred to as the upper voter, Patrice Emery Lumumba played a very good role in the liberation of Congo and its independence from colonial rule, and became the name Congo that we all celebrate and know today. So also, we can go to South Africa and catalog the instrumentality and role play by Nelson Mandela. So these were all young people. Mind you, at the time they launched this liberation struggle, they were all in their prime. They were all in their prime of the entire young generation stage, the legs of Nkrumah, Sankara, Lumumba, Mandela. They were all young people. As a matter of fact, people like Sankara, the Lumumba, Mandela, they play a unique role because these people were people who started agitating for freedom and liberation in Africa as young people. And these people were incarcerated, and in their absence, you had young people that took onto the streets and chanted slogans of change on behalf of them, and these people were free, and they came to leadership and liberated their country. So it boiled down to the fact that we as young people, we can play a very major role. So all of these people that are listed above, these people all play a role of change as young people through the issue of political liberation. Now, should we say that we should continue this path as young people? I will straightly tell you no. The issue of political liberation and agitation should not be the only reason for change in our country right now. Because mind you, most of these people liberation led to numerous of death, it led to bloodshed, it led to incarceration of many people, it led to the disconnect of people from their various families. So as young people, our agitation, our liberation at this time, in this modern age, should be a different ball game. We should be looking at the issue of bringing changes through our pen. We should look at the issue of bringing necessary changes through the various social media platforms, through sensitizing our people on the importance of young people involvement into leadership, not just political leadership, but let us look at how can young people get involved with social entrepreneurship? How can young people contribute to the business sector of our country? How can young people contribute to awareness building and several factors that can lead to the progress and productivity of our country? So let us understand that when we look at the role of young people in the advancement and rebuilding of our country, it's not just about political agitation, but we should look at the fact that we young people from skills acquired, we should be going. There are many of us who have come here. Mind you, we should not just come in with the mindset of just going to classes, going to school, learning, getting the necessary GPA, get a good grade, go Liberia, and start running after political jobs. Some of our concerns should be, how can we network to carry investors to our country? Some of our concern can be, how can we be here and be making impact back home, just like you guys are doing with the Exchange Forum? So currently in Liberia, given the fact that the issue of job creation from the UN population index that cases with projection, the issue of job creation Basically, the focus is with the social entrepreneurship sector. That means there should be many jobs created into the private sector. Look, in our country, Liberia and other countries in Africa, the reason why there are always agitation, there are always the fact that young people only want to get involved into political activities because we've built that mindset that with the exception of political jobs, there cannot be good jobs for young people. Hey, I'm here today to tell you that we should disabuse that mindset. Let us understand that young people themselves can get involved into the private sector. As a matter of fact, the strength of every country does not rely solely on the quality of level of job provided by government. It requires and is dependent greatly on the private sector. So as a young person today, given the fact that I'm given this platform to discuss the issue of the role of young people in the advancement and rebuilding of post-war country, especially Liberia, I've come today to appeal to your conscience. There are a few recommendations we should take into consideration. And just to conclude, there are three major recommendations. Number one, firstly, young people, we should be able to realize our potentials, because all of what we will get involved with, if the first thing, before you move, some of us who are Christian and subscribe to the biblical principle, there is a certain part of the Bible that says, I press on towards the mark of the high calling. So that is the issue of realizing your potential. When we as young people can realize our potential, then we will get ready to put ourselves into the position of advancing our country. We can put ourselves in the position of rebuilding our country. Another thing we need to do, let us work towards achieving our goal. Now, in achieving our goal, there are a few things we need to take into consideration. You know, I was fortunate to sit with an Indian scholar who make me to understand that our brains, there are two layers of our brains. There is a part of our brains he considers is the left layer, and that left layer is the innovative part of our brain. In trying to achieve your goal, you must have that innovative mindset. The innovative mindset comes with the ability of saying, yes, I want to establish a business in Liberia. I want to establish a car rental service in Liberia. I want to establish a money transfer service in Liberia. That's the innovative part of our brain. And then that layer of our brain got to do with the issue of actualizing that innovation. Because mind you, you can have the best of innovations. You can have the best of plan. If the brain cannot connect to actualize, okay, yes, indeed, you want to open a car rental service, but how can you go about actualizing that dream? It requires getting fundings, it requires going on the ground, it requires getting vehicles, it requires getting manpower. So these are the actualization stage. So we need to work towards achieving our goal. And the issue of goal is that unique endpoint to every action we envision. That is what we call our goal. Now, the third recommendation got to do with when given an opportunity, let us serve to the best of our ability. Many a times in Liberia and in other countries, we young people, we have abused the opportunity afforded us. At times, young people are given an opportunity and cannot live up to the expectation for which they were reposed in these confidence of leadership were reposed into them. So, as I sit on this platform today, I want to encourage all of us. Let us look at the fact that we are young people. When we've realized our potentials, when we want to achieve our dream, and when we are given an opportunity, we should be able to serve to the best of our ability. I gave you a situation with the electoral process in Liberia. 2005, the first post-war election we had in our country, if you look at majority of the people that were elected into national leadership were not people that were in the young generation stage. These were people that were far beyond or above the young generation stage. The reason was just simple, because at the time, many of the young people were not prepared, were not up to the task for national leadership, because we just left the war where majority of the young people were involved in the war. We were focused on the issue of disarmament, the issue of demobilization. We were focused on the issue of rebranding the mind of young people, because the war itself had a serious effect on us as young people in Liberia in totality. So as I sit here today to conclude, I will encourage you as young people, the unique and adequate role of young people in the advancement and rebuilding of post-war country is to take into consideration that we must make immense impact through our preparation, through our participation, and through our deliverable. Thank you very much for following me this time.
Thank you very much. And that's the voice of Hezekiah Tabe. And he's with us tonight to discuss the role of youth in the advancement and rebuilding of the post-war country, specifically looking at Liberia as a case study. And if you are just joining us, this is the Exchange, the weekend edition of the Exchange. And the Exchange is a 1 hour, 30-minute program that brings together young people from diverse backgrounds to discuss issues of major concerns, both nationally and globally. And tonight we are discussing the role of youth in the development or in the advancement and rebuilding of the post-war country, specifically looking at Liberia as a case study. And to discuss that, we've invited with us Hezekiah Tape Jr., a student, a Liberian student who based currently in Ludhiana, Punjab. So if you're just joining us, the program is being streamed on 3 platforms: YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. So you can make your points heard through the comment section. You can leave your message in the comment section. We'll ask the guests those questions that you want answers to. And you can also call on the WhatsApp number that is being seen on your screen at 770-2610-509. So you can call us and make your points heard and on the platform tonight. So we are here discussing the role of young people in development and rebuilding of a post-war country, specifically looking at Liberia with the case study. So now I want to my fellow panelists to that said basically what he just said, and if there is some qualms they want to raise and basically ask you questions relative to the discussion that we are having tonight, the podium is yours. So we'd like to ask anyone who have the chance to talk about something, you can just direct the question to our guest tonight, Hezekiah Tape Jr. So let's go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Moses, for that recognition. And I want to say a very big thank you to our guest, the Hezekiah Tape, who have taken upon his time to come and educate the young people on issues surrounding Liberia and the nations as well. Uh, but my question here to our guest speaker is that looking at Liberia as a case study, and Liberia coming from a post-war or Liberia being a post-war country, and looking at the educational system, right? That you make mention of that more Liberians are today opportune to come out here or going other places and acquire better educations. So if it comes to the rankings of how many youth, can you give us any statistics on probably how many young people today in Liberia that are prepared, that you feel can take the mantles of authority to give Liberia that face again? Can there be any statistics?
Oh yeah, there is a statistic, and like I said, if you look at for the total youth population in Liberia, 54% of the young people in Liberia are literate. That means 54% of the young people in Liberia have some level of education, either formal or informal education. They can read and they can write, they can articulate, they can analyze. So that will tell you for the fact that this percentage of people are literate, it automatically projects to the fact that when given an opportunity, these young people can adequately contribute to the rebuilding and advancement of our country through the issue of job performances, through the issue of business initiation, institution. But mind you, like I said, It all boils down to three major things. It boils down to our preparation, because there are 54% of us that are literate. So the question is, are we prepared? That's one. Why is true we are literate? Are we prepared for the job market through whether governmental or private sector? That's one thing. Are we willing to participate? Because mind you, and let me say this, one of the issue, a major issue we face in our country nowadays, looking at Liberia, is the issue of willingness to participate. There are many young people who shy away from involvement into leadership, especially national leadership. So this boils down to the fact that we must understand that, realizing our potential, we should be willing to participate. Because mind you, if you're not willing to participate in a leadership process, if you're not willing to shape the leadership perspective of our country, you cannot contribute. So given the fact that 54% of us are illiterate, we should be willing. 54% of us should be willing to participate in the governance and leadership of our country for future productivity. So yes, I will tell you the statistics of the people that are willing or that are in a position to contribute are these people that fall within the ratio of 54% of the total youth population.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much. I had a follow-up question to that, but before then, one of our viewers there wants to ask a question. So once you are following us, there's a change forum. We want to say welcome again and welcomes to this weekend show where we bring students from diverse background to tell us the happiness in our educational system. Today we have certified topic. Welcome, Ambrose Y. Welcomes to the exchange.
Okay, thank you very much. Let me say greetings to my brothers and sisters in studio there, and greetings to Mr. Hasifa Tape for his deliberations on the role of young people in nation building. I listen to you very carefully as you pin out the positions or the roles of young people in nation building. So with all the points that you have outlined, do you think that the Liberian youth are actively participating towards taking the nation from where it is today to another level in terms of development?
That was the voice of Ambrose White asking our guest speaker, saying, with the point checked down, honorable guest speaker, do you think uh, the youthful people or the statistics given, the Liberian people can be able to take our country to the next trajectory? That was the voice of Ambrose White.
All right, yeah, Ambrose, let me say thank you for the question, and I mean in a special way recognize you, our fellow colleague and friend, who have been very instrumental in playing a very unique role in the leadership and progress of our youthful community out of Liberia. I would say yes, young people, we are in a position, and currently young people are taking steps. Frankly, I will tell you, we've not achieved all of the steps yet, but young people are taking steps. Take for example, look at the 2005, 2011, and 2017 electoral participation. I'm talking about contestants, people who participated as contestants. I'm not talking about voters. Look at that ratio. You will notice that the number of young people that vying for election in 2011 were more than the young people that vying for election in 2005. You will also realize that the number of young people that vying for elections in 2017 are more than the young people that vying for election in 2011 and 2005. So this boils down to the fact that indeed, young people, we are in the position to improve our country and take our country to another level. This boils down to the fact that young people are taking considerable steps in the advancement and rebuilding of Liberia. That's one aspect. Second to that, compare the youthful involvement into government from 2005 to 2017, from 2017 up to present. If you will compare and contrast, you will realize that there are a lot of young people that are into governmental position and national leadership as compared to before 2017. So it just projects that between 2017 and now, the ratio has increased. So that implies that young people are taking considerable steps. Visit the various landline ministries and agencies in Liberia. In Liberia right now, we have a current unconfirmed ratio of a vast majority of the assistants and deputy ministers in our country are young people between the ages 18 to 40 years. They fall within a young generation. So that projects that unlike previously, right now young people are taking considerable steps. More to that, let's look at the business institutions. Before 2011 or before 2014, there were not many young people that were involved in the establishment and institution of business and private sector to contribute to our country. But currently, I can tell you there are a lot of young people that are involved in businesses. There are a lot of young people that are involved in the private sector. There are a lot of young people that are social entrepreneurs, and they are contributing to the progress of our country. So yes, indeed, young people are in a position, and we are taking considerable steps. Another example could be this forum that we are on, the Exchange Forum. Prior to this time, how many young people had the ingenuity of establishing such platform to create an opportunity for us to sensitize and provide awareness for our police backbone and that of leadership? Previously, before you leave Liberia for foreign study, you must be within the ratio of someone that is above the young class. Or even if you are above the young class, people only focus were to come to foreign countries, study, go back and see how to get governmental positions. But mind you, we are in India here today, and our young colleagues have established this exchange forum, this platform, and this platform is something that is providing enough awareness. This platform is providing opportunity for young people and people from all walks of life to come on the show, provide their expertise, discuss issue of national productivity. So that point out to the fact and boil down to the reality that indeed young people, we are available, we are taking considerable measures, and we are taking steps in the advancement and rebuilding of our country.
Okay. Thank you very much for answering Andrew's wife's question. And I think he clearly understood your point, and he might just have answered his question. So I want to ask again a follow-up question, basically as it relates to the topic. So when we talking about youth getting prepared and having themselves involved in the process of rebuilding or trying to advance the country for where it has to be, because when you talk about advancement, it has to do with not only individuals being educated or going to school. It has to do with the advancement of technology and the advancement of let's say human capacity building. And basically, those things, technological and human capacity building, boils down to the issue that government has to be involved. And because most young people, like we all know, have not been involved in Liberia political landscape for a very long period of time. There's always been people who are adults and who are above the ages that we are talking about tonight. So how basically can we reconcile now that young people or basically government are really working to build the capacity of young people and also help in the advancement of technology, because technology now in the 21st century plays a very, very important role in every country development. So how can that be reconciled with the government not willing or finding means to help build the capacity of Liberians or young Liberians and then improve our country when it comes to technological activities? Can you just answer that?
So, if I understood you rightly, to summarize your question is how can we reconcile the role of government in building up the capacity of young people, right?
Basically, yes.
Yes. All right. So now, if you look at that, I will tell you government, even government before and now, is playing a very major role in building the capacity of young people. Firstly, previously during the leadership of the United Party, previous to this administration, at one point in time, the national budget of the Ministry of Youth and Sport raised it raised and became the government entity or the government ministry that had the highest budgetary allotment. I may not be exact on the year, but that was between a period of 2000 between a period of 2009 to 2000 between a period of 2008 to 2010, one of those years. So that was for the fact that the government realized that they need to raise the budget of Ministry of Youth and Sport. Mind you, Ministry of Youth and Sport is the ministry of government agency solely and squarely responsible for building the capacity of young people. So for the fact that government thought in their wiser wisdom to raise the national budget of Ministry of Youth and Sport, that implies that the government have realized and was taking necessary steps in helping to build up the capacity of young people. Another aspect could be currently the issue of the free tertiary education to all government institution or government-run education system in Liberia is something that projects the fact that government is ready and willing to help build up the capacity of young people through the educational system. More to that, if you will look at other skills capacity building initiative, just recently, about 2 years ago, Honorable Thomas P. Fowler, one of the representatives of Montserrat County, not Thomas P. Fowler, but Honorable Colonel Jimmy Smith, proffered a bill that was enacted to make Monrovia Vocational Training Center as an autonomous agency. So making it as an autonomous agency is about building the institution by itself to make it self-sufficient, building the capacity of that institution so that it can be able to reach out to many people as much as possible. So that projects the fact and projects the idea of government willingness to build the capacity of young people. So yes, indeed, I can tell you that government is taking considerable steps. Government is taking every necessary measure through revamping the education sector, through revamping the Ministry of Youth and Sport, through the involvement of young people into national leadership. There are many young people today that are into national leadership because of their qualification, their competence, and their service and role play to national development. So for the fact that government is exploring all of these avenues, government is exploring all of these measures, and do not get me wrong, this is not the only government that have done that. This government is not the only government that have taken that step in ensuring that the capacity of young people be built up. For instance, in during the leadership of President Charles Gange Taylor, you have Ben Senvi, who was playing a very key role into government as a youth policy advisor to the president. So that is about bringing young people to national leadership. It's about the fact that giving young people the opportunity, building that confidence and trust into them. So yes, indeed, I can tell you the government of Liberia, past and present, have played a major role in building the capacity of young people. And from where it stands, from the projection, how we see it, the government is willing to even do more. Visit doctorates and other institutions today, you will see the majority of the young people, mind you, there are students who are at doctorate, they are receiving stipends from government while they are studying. So this boils down to the fact that government is creating avenue, government is encouraging young people to get involved into the education sector, because the only way we can help to rebuild and advance the country is when we get the necessary education, formally, informally, or through skills training.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. And Nuo David wants to ask questions. So Nuo, welcome to the platform and ask your questions, please. Nuo, if you're hearing me, it's a chance to ask a question. Please go ahead and ask the question, Nuo. No, maybe you have not unmuted your mic if you're trying to talk because we're not hearing you. She just left, so we'll now turn over to Prince. Prince W. You would,
I think New
Prince,
is
you have
a
anything?
serious level issue.
Yes. Prince, you have anything to say related to the topic? You can go ahead, Prince.
All right, thank you very much. I hope I'm audible.
All
Am I okay?
yeah, you are.
Yeah, I actually been faced with a serious internet issue, but I actually just came in and listened to the splendid deliberation of my friend and brother Hesifa. He spoke suddenly and he spoke very, very well. But one of the things that gladdens my heart and joy my attention has to do with the aspect of
Excuse me, Prince.
rehabilitation. Yeah.
Prince, can you just closer to the phone or monitor, or please raise your voice because you are low.
All right. Am I audible now?
Yes, good.
Yes, so I said actually you spoke suddenly, right? And all of your points are very key, logical, and important. But one of the most important thing I always take into consideration for every time discussion of such happens, wherein we discuss issues affecting young people, is the aspect of rehabilitation and integration. Let's take for case study or for typical example, right? Some of our brothers and sisters that are languishing on the street, some of them that we term them to be vulnerable ones within the society, like zogos or zogis. So what are those durable solutions? What are your recommendations based on what you refer to as crafted and durable policy for government to work on for them to be integrated within the society?
All right. And let me say thank you, Prince. You struck a very important point. You know, when I was in Liberia, for every time, you know, my charity institution and some of my colleagues that have charity institution, for every time I join them or go with my institution to do donations or visit the ghettos and talk to our young colleagues, many a times tears roll down my cheeks because a bit your imagination, you go to a ghetto and then you see a colleague who you sat in class with together, and this person is a very brilliant, was a very brilliant person, someone of high intellect, and then you see him into the ghetto doing something what they call chasing a drone. So it's such a unfortunate and disappointing situation. I think the best thing that needed to, there are two major things we need to do, or the government of Liberia need to do, and it also require our collective effort as citizens, especially young people. One, the government needs to institute stringent measures and law regarding the importation and the consumption of drugs and narcotic substances. Secondly, the government needs to institute measures in rehabilitating young people, and I think government have started to take the first step to that process. Currently, the drug reform law is with the the House of Senate. That reform law provides that the issue of drugs should be a non-billable offense. There are several factors, the stringent measure regarding importation, incarceration of people who are importing drugs, going after them and curtailing the drugs cartel. They are all factors involved in that entire drug reform law. As a matter of fact, that drug law was proffered by the reform law was proffered by Honorable Thomas Goshua, the representative of very. This is why I say young people I already taken step in playing a major role. Honorable Thomas Goshua is another young person or youthful or young lawmaker that introduced that drug reform law, and fortunately that law was passed by the lower house and is currently before the upper house, the House of Senate, for concurrence. When it is concurred, that means the issue of drug will be a non-billable offense. The government, there will be stringent measures issue on the importation or the importers of these drugs. Secondly, let's look at the issue of rehabilitation. The government have been playing a part, but not much has been done. And I think this government is stepping up to the reality. You know, the government consists of three major branches: the executive, legislature, and the judiciary. Whatever branch of government that make gains we consider it a gain by the government in totality. So the issue of rehabilitation of our brothers that I call Zogos and Zokis, take for instance, we have the ES Grade mental home. That is a rehabilitation center somewhere in Tukuru where our young brothers have been rehabilitated, where our young brothers have been taken for counseling and treated so that they can leave these drugs. But mind you, there is one thing that is lacking: the issue of reintegration. If these people are rehabilitated, they are treated, they are counseled, how can they be reintegrated into our society? There is another establishment around the I think the Destiny Recovery Center around the 72nd era, run by one Pastor Jerry. Is a private institution that is contributing to the rehabilitation of Zogos and Zokis, our disadvantaged brother. Something that is still lacking is the issue of reintegration. How can these people be reintegrated to be useful in a society and to help? I think government is making gains to that, because currently there is a bill in committee room, and that bill was submitted by a very young representative. As a matter of fact, she should be listed among the first 3 youngest representatives in the House of Legislature, in presence of Honorable Rosalind Swakoko Dennis. She submitted a bill for the construction of a rehabilitation and reintegration hub for drugs and cannabis users. If that bill is passed, that bill provides that the government of Liberia must build a center, a very big and accommodative center. Apart from building that center, they must invest in other drug rehabilitation programs, wherein these guys can be talked to, counseled, and then they're treated to leave the drugs. When they are treated, they are rehabilitated. And then the government of Liberia, through that bill, will provide skills training program for them. So take for instance, you go to that rehabilitation and reintegration hub. If that 1 year or 9 months you spend there, you're not only going to be treated or going to be counseled. You're also going to get skills training, whether that carpentry, whether that fashion design, plumbing, masonry. So that is the reintegration process. So when that is done, you come out of that rehabilitation and reintegration hub, you become useful to the society. So now that person now will be challenged with a situation of making impact, getting a daily bread, and thinking about going back to their life. So the reason why you see many of our brothers who go for rehabilitation and come back and still go into this life, because there is no reintegration process. The man leave the mental home, he come into the society, he still interacting with his friends, he still don't have money to cater to himself, least to speak about him catering to his family that he left behind before going into the street. So as a result, you will see you will have to start going around those same friends. But if this person is rehabilitated, the person acquired the necessary skill, obviously they will be contributing to nation's building, and this person will also be a channel of motivation to his fellow young colleagues to have them rehabilitated and reintegrated. So in a special way, let me use this platform to say hats up to Honorable Rosalind Dennis for that bill that she put forth and is currently in committee room. And I'm using this platform. I want all Liberians to join me and let us prevail on the conscience of the National Legislature to ensure that this bill is enacted, this bill is passed and signed into law, and let the government make the requisite and necessary funding available for the establishment of the rehabilitation and reintegration hub. This too will help in the process of rehabilitating, rebuilding, and reducing the level of Zogos in our country.
Yeah, thank you very much. And that was a splendid point you made. So let's just move on to Nuo quickly, and then Harry a second, so we can be able to end the show in time, because time is fast spent now. Nuo, go ahead with your question, and let's ask the people concise to the questions that will be asked, so you can save time, please.
Okay, thank you for giving me the opportunity again. For me, I'm ready into this social aspect, and I'm not ready into the governmental work. So I want to know how really young people, although some of them are willing to be a positive change agent to society, but are there non-governmental organizations in Liberia that are really into this capacity building aspect? If yes, how many and what are some of the changes we have seen into youth since the establishment of those NGOs?
All right. So your question is, how well are young people willing regarding entire change and rebuilding of our country and how are they involved? I will,
No,
I will be clear to you. I,
no. My question is, some of the youngsters are willing, but how many non-governmental organizations that are in Liberia providing the capacity building trainings to young people, and what are some of the changes since their establishment?
all right. There are a lot of institutions or non-governmental entities that are involved into the capacity building. Take for instance, in district number 4, there is currently a program run by the Office of the Representative of District number 4, Rostoli, and that is called the Urban Initiative Vocational Skills Training Program. That is a non-governmental entity, that is a non-governmental institution that is contributing to building the capacity of young people through skills acquired through plumbing, fashion design, cosmetology, electricity, event decoration. So out of government, this is an entity or this is an institution that is contributing and making impact. Another organization is the Think Home. The Think Home is an entity that is run by the representative of Riverside County, one Rosanna Shack. And Think Home is providing capacity building for young girls in Pinsville and that of Riverside County. This is a non-governmental institution. Another institution could be is the African Dream Academy, that is the African Dream Vocational Technical Education that is running in District number 6. It's also providing vocational skills training for Liberians. That is a non-political institution. More to that, you know, you are a typical and very good example of the fact that people that are with non-governmental agency, young people are involved in building the capacity of young people. Take for instance, you are an executive director of a very youthful movement that is building the capacity of young people into leadership training. Just recently, you people had a dialogue for the issue of menstrual cycle, telling young people what the entire menstrual cycle is, how can they observe it, the effect, what are the challenges and everything. So if you look at it, there are scores of institutions, non-governmental institutions that are contributing immensely to the rebuilding and progress of our country. What we need to do now as young people is to avail ourselves, get involved like how Noah is doing. Let's many of us young people see her as an example, and many of us young people see her as a role model, as someone that is in the capacity to provide the necessary change that we all can copy from. Mind you, the issue of education, the issue of mentorship does not boil down to age. Whatever age you are, whatever category, relation, or creed you subscribe to, the issue of change come with your ability to take necessary action for future productivity. So there are several of non-governmental institutions that are making numerous of gains.
Okay, so let's take the caller, please. Yes, let's take the call. Someone wants to ask question. We'll have a caller quick. Afterwards, then we'll take Harriet, and then we can conclude on that from our guest, and then we can call this a night. So let's take the call, please.
Welcome. I guess this is Abraham. Welcome to the Exchange Forum, sir.
Thank you. All right, Abraham Vali Kamar is my name. I'm so glad to be here. And the role of the young people in the advancement and rebuilding of post-war country. I think this is a very important topic, and I want to say bravo to our organizers of the Exchange Forum, and bravo to our guest lecturer, Hasifa Tape Jr., who is our party chairman of the Liberia Reformation Movement. I want to say thank you very much for your splendid deliberation. So quickly, I think this is actually a very important topic for a discussion and using Liberia as a case study. We have so many post-war countries like Sierra Leone, like Rwanda, and other countries. All right, so quickly, my question has to do with three things: analyzing the role of young people in the advancement and rebuilding process of post-war country using Liberia as a case study. So, to our guest lecturer, Hasifa Tape Jr., what is one thing you have seen and like about the people, specifically the young people in the rebuilding process of our country, Mama Liberia? And what is one thing you have noticed that is going on wrong about young people in the rebuilding process of our country, Liberia? And lastly, what is one thing you can recommend to young people generally towards the advancement and rebuilding process of our country, Liberia? So basically, these are the three things I want you to just speak about, in summary. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That was the voice of Abraham Vavi Kamara right there. So I think our guest will be directly and straight to the point. He's only asking for one thing because time is already fast spent. We are not taking any call anymore because we do not have time in our favor anymore. So I hope our guest be directly and straight to the point. Are you
So,
there,
yeah,
Mr. Guest Speaker?
Mr. Hazifa Tabet Jr., you have 3 minutes, please, to answer those questions. 3 minutes, please. We just want you to be there.
All right. So the first thing is that what is one thing I've noticed is the fact that young people, we have realized that we play a major role in the rebuilding of our country. Another thing that I see now, cool, I don't admire, is the fact that not many young people are fully ready to participate. And what would be my recommendation to young people is that let us get involved, and when given the opportunity, let's live to the best of our ability.
Thank you. Thank you. And that was splendid and very concise. So, Harriet will take you, and you can give your question, Harriet.
Yes, to our guests. My question is, how actively are the young people into entrepreneurship and innovation in Liberia, as Liberia is our case study?
So if I would do a statistic, I will tell you that is the activeness of young people into entrepreneurship is not high. It's something that is less than 40%, because it's just quite recently that many of young people are getting involved. But I can assure you that in time to come, it will improve, because there are many of young people, like even right now in India, there are many of our young friends who came here just for study. Some of them have got involved into businesses. Back home, there are some Liberia that are involved. There are some Liberians that are involved with their private businesses. So on a ratio, the activeness of young people is less than 40%. But we are projecting that in few years to come, it will increase.
Okay, yes. So, Prince, if you have anything to say before we can go further, you can say it quick. Maybe you have a question again, but if not, then we can just go back to our guest, Hazifa, to conclude on the entire topic tonight and give his objections as it relates to everything that we talk about, and then we can just call it a night. So, Hazifa, back to you as it relates to your conclusion.
All right, let me say thank you to the entire Exchange Forum family. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. Thank you for creating this platform. There's a medium for exchange where Liberia can get better through our involvement initiative. To my fellow young colleagues, As young people, let us understand that we need to make immense contribution in the rebuilding and advancement of our country. And that got to do with our level of preparation. Let us be prepared. Let us be willing to participate. Let us be willing to deliver. My unique recommendation is that when given the opportunity, let young people put themselves in a capacity to serve to the best of our ability. With this, the motherland will never fall. Long live Liberia. Long live the progress and forward march of our country. Thank you very much.
And thank you very much for accepting our invite and sitting with us on tonight's discourse of youth, basically as it relates to that role in the advancement and rebuilding of our country, Liberia, as a post-war nation. So thank you for joining us here tonight to discuss that very important topic. So we have been discussing the role of youth in the advancement and rebuilding of post-war country using Liberia as a case study. And we've had with us Hasifa Tapper Jr. as our guest. And we've had in studio Mr. Elijah Dennis as one of the panelists, Prince W. Duo Jr. as another panelist, and Harriet Lopu Moba as another panelist, and Noah Davis as another panelist. I've been one of the panelists, Moses T. Delaware, and it was a pleasure being here to discuss tonight's edition of the program, The Exchange. The Exchange comes your way every weekdays, Wednesday and Saturday. So until then, we see you on Wednesday with another edition of The Exchange. You can please like our page, comment, and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Thank you very much. And as always, Liberia is on the rising. Have a good day and bye from our end.